start to look at what you're offering and start to look at it from that perspective again, that you are providing a phenomenal experience. You might be changing someone's life. You might be changing their finances. You might be helping them with their relationships. Think beyond the point of service. You know your business can change people's lives, but you don't yet have the right words to inspire them to take action. Imagine the changes you will create in your business as you tap into the secrets of ethical influence and positive persuasion to not only better serve your clients, but also to supercharge your financial freedom. I'm your host, Jason Linett, and welcome to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast. I help entrepreneurs and business owners just like you to close more premium sales. And no, this isn't about tricking or manipulating people, not at all. It's about helping your prospects to appropriately sell themselves into your products or services. Please hit subscribe and get all the episodes now at jasonlinett.com. Hey everybody, and welcome back. So it's an interesting thing that very often I've done some private consulting with people who have done work elsewhere. Other people who teach business, other people who teach how to become that influencer inside of your own community. And it's a funny thing that sometimes they go about it from the advice of just put yourself out there. Oh, you just need to keep showing up to your audience. And that's like maybe 1/5 of the conversation, if even that kind of percentage. This week on Hypnotic Language Hacks, I want to get laser focused on exactly how to show up with confidence, how to put yourself out there in such a way that people respond to you, people are drawn to you, and yes, people are going to want more from you. For those of you that are keeping track of the personal story here, I am now broadcasting from Florida. Our ongoing move, we'll call it that, is now in a state where we're actually, in the state of Florida. We're a couple of blocks from the beach, renting a property in New Smyrna Beach. And then as of the plans of now, we're here for about a month, and then we're going to head over to Clearwater for about 2 months. Basically sample both coasts and see what direction we want to go. We'll be buying down here eventually, which be sure to look at some of the previous episodes of Hypnotic Language Hacks, because there have been previous pieces of content specifically on taking your business online, how to scale around the world, and basically you're watching me in real time keep the business thriving as well as continuing to grow, even as, let me call out my glamorous production studio of the day. We're in a 2-bedroom sort of condo unit, and the kids are downstairs with my wife. So we can run a business from basically anywhere. But with that, let's jump directly into this week's session, all about how to show up with confidence. But first, check this out. Before we get started today, if you want to easily grab people's attention, naturally build authority, and organically have your prospects wanting more from you, even before you've made an offer, I've created a step-by-step program to help you to do just that. It's called Business Influence Systems. And this is your opportunity now to visit jasonlinett.com to get a free behind-the-scenes tour of the exact hypnotic persuasion strategies that you can ethically use to better start up or scale up your business. If you want a proven framework to boost your confidence, attract premium clients, and inspire more people to take action with you, get Business Influence Systems now at jasonlinett.com. So now, I mentioned earlier this idea of just simply put yourself out there or show up to your audience. Or I've heard this one, especially in the midst of the last year or so inside of a global pandemic, that people will remember that you showed up for them. And yes, I absolutely agree with that. Yes, that was something I did for one of my audiences, where for the first time ever, that podcast that I'd been doing went out twice a week during a time where people needed the help. People needed the support in terms of how to better grow their businesses when suddenly everything changed. But I want you to hear what was inside of that. There was a specific strategy inside of that moment. The challenge in that world were that people were now having to migrate their services online, and they did not yet know how to do that. So for the first time ever, I went out twice a week and I was doing interviews. I was teaching free content, showing and telling people exactly how to go about doing the thing that they want to be doing. So what I want you to hear from that, though, is that there was a specific strategy that was in place. All of this live streaming, and whether it's Facebook, whether it's Clubhouse, whether it's TikTok, whether it's whatever platform appears in the next 3 or 4 years and everything changes once again. It's so much easier when there's a specific strategy behind what you do. So inside of this week's episode, again, how to show up with confidence, take that as strategy number 1. Have a strategic reason to be in front of that audience. It's completely okay. My business is one that has been built for years by showing up, giving free value, and simply giving a polite offer mixed in the content of what I'm sharing there. So I'm someone that the story around this is a little bit of a sidebar. I had a student a while ago who actually reached out and he goes, well, I want to start putting out some videos on YouTube, but I'm afraid if I do that, people will never come to me. To which I started to respond by going, now you're a member of this program, and I referenced an online training of mine that he's a member of. Okay, yeah, and you're also a member of this one, right? Yeah, and you're also a member of that one. Yeah, you remember that group thing we did a while ago? Yeah, you joined that too, right? Yeah. How'd you find me in the first place? And he paused and he goes, I get it now. So it was from that free podcast, that other program I've been doing, Work Smart Hypnosis, that's been going out for about 7 years at this point now. So the opportunity, you can go live, you can go out there and even podcast, such as I am right now, on multiple platforms. Some of you might be watching this on the Facebook Live inside of our community at the time. Then again, it will release as a standard podcast within the next week or so. But when you have a specific strategy, have a means to what you're doing. And similar to that too, I think this is one of the biggest things that's missing. And I'll draw a line here in terms of how some of the content that I'll be sharing with you here in the series is a bit different than others. I want you to notice right now, I am giving you solutions. I am not taking this as the opportunity to highlight the problems and challenges you might be facing. It's a bit different. So we're not talking about the mental dialogue that may be holding you back. We're talking instead about the strategies that, respectfully or disrespectfully speaking, can help you to crawl out of that garbage to start to now put your message out there in a way that, again, creates impact and has people wanting more from you. So inside of that, one of the easiest ways to show up with confidence inside of what you do is to simply believe in your offer. Now, I know that sounds a little bit more sort of, 30,000 foot view in terms of how I usually share content here. But there's something to go a little deeper dive inside of this idea of, really believing in your content. And I'll give you a specific example on this. And this is actually a conversation I had with one of my consulting students a couple of days ago, which would be that if we're on a phone call, if it's a free piece of content, there's some good value that we can share with people. However, consider whatever product or service you have. And you'd likely agree that you can provide pretty good value in terms of maybe a free resource, a free download, maybe a 5-day video series, perhaps like the challenge opportunity offer. Yet at the same time, if that person were to hire you, if that person were to work with you, couldn't you help them a whole lot more? There's a reach in terms of what we're capable of doing. I can give you some good strategies here. I can get you to a certain point. But at times it does take that one-to-one. It may take diving into an intensive program and actually looking at the nuances and getting that laser-specific focused feedback as to what can really take you from good to great, if not great to frickin' phenomenal. So when you start to realize that it's not just the exchange of money, it's also the exchange of time. It's also that moment of ownership to kind of call out, I'm doing okay with this one thing, but I could do it even better if I actually pay for it. And this is something that I found to be true of myself over the years, that the more I'm willing to invest in something, the more I'm willing to get out of it. This is where, if you were to look at my calendar, there are specific blocks of time that are completely shaded out, because that's when I'm digging into educational content to continue to level up what I do. So if I'm willing to put in that effort to someone else's product, program, consulting, whatever it may be that I've hired, start to look at what you're offering and start to look at it from that perspective again, that you are providing a phenomenal experience. You might be changing someone's life. You might be changing their finances. You might be helping them with their relationships. Think beyond the point of service. Here's an accountant that I worked with a while ago, and the story was he was laser focused on helping them to save money on their taxes. And the whole premise being pay your fair share, but don't give them a bonus that they're not owed. And so what his expertise was looking around and, realizing places where, oh, you qualify for this credit, you qualify for that one. The challenge was in his business. That's where he was stopping the thinking. Through some of the work that we did together, which we're sharing here, it was all about looking at, well, what happens after that? Well, by having that extra bit of money, he was better able to prepare his kids for college. By having that money set aside, he was better able to prepare for retirement. By having that money set aside, here'd be the frivolous thing he just felt like buying, and it wasn't so much of a challenge, and it didn't quite break the bank. So by looking at the real value that he was providing, his offer now on the phone, as he substantially raised his rates, as it was quite due some time for him to do that, became a bit of a no-brainer. Because now the difference was, it was easier for him to sell the prospect as to the value of what he was providing if he believed the value himself too. Think about that for a moment. So I think far too often people are thinking way too small about what they're offering. That there may be a specific point in time where the value of your product or service comes to a close. Yet the ramifications, that's a fun word, the ramifications of what you create continue far beyond. So for you to fully believe in the value of your offer, can you start to see how that's going to change your delivery? As it's time to do a video, go out on a Facebook Live, put something on Instagram Live, go out on Clubhouse, or fill in the blank. This stuff is universal. This is basic human psychology. It's not the platform, it's the strategy. Similar to that too, you could now just simply go out there, now that you have that better confidence in terms of what you're providing, now it comes time to actually make an offer. And dare I say, this is one of those missing elements from most people that are going out and doing some bit of Facebook Live or any other kind of interaction. Yes, they're now more confident. Yes, they're now delivering information in a better way, but they're still hiding behind their offer. They're still terrified to, quote, make that pitch. Which I'll give you a few nuances to this. A few, hypnotic language hacks that help you to deliver in a much better way. First of all, here's your easiest transition phrase. If this is resonating with you, please check out fill in the blank. Hey, if this sounds like something you might be looking for, check out this. I'll tell you the one sentence that's helping to drive a lot of my business right now. Well, you can make use of a lot of the free information that I've shared with you and through repetition see some good benefits. Though I know some of you want to get there faster and easier. And for that, head over to now.jasonlinett.com, and that's where you can check out the full program that is Business Influence Systems to get the deep dive in terms of not just the emotional aspect of how you show up, but also the languaging, so now your words and communication become even more influential. Did you catch that? For those who want to get there faster and easier. And no matter what market you're in, we're very often selling faster and easier. Even buying a car. Well, from where I am right now in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, it's about a 45-minute drive north to Daytona Beach. And if I wanted a car to get me there, well, that would be faster and easier. I could walk there. Might take me all day if I'm brisk at that walk. So faster and easier is the solution. You could go off and read a ton of books, do a lot of guessing and testing, and basically put in 15 years experience into what you're doing, and maybe figure out some of these hypnotic language hacks on your own. But then again, now.jasonlinett.com, check out that program. It's going to get you there faster and easier. So there's another nuance to what I'm talking about here, which the best reference to this would be is to hop online and simply do a search for either QVC or HSN. HSN stands for the Home Shopping Network, and QVC stands for something else. But basically, these are those TV programs where the entire day is basically a commercial. You don't quite get the same appeal if you're looking at an infomercial. An infomercial is typically a lot more, we'll say, appropriately aggressive inside of what they're offering. We're in a rental house for the month, and the pans are okay for cooking. Some of you have been around me enough to hear me talk about the Copper Chef pans, which are phenomenal, but I'm looking at those Meissen or Mizzen pans. But again, because I've been seeing the ads and going, scratchy, scratchy, scratchy with the eggs, and let's find something better. Someone is joining the live stream of this right now, and they're hearing scratchy, scratchy, scratchy with the eggs. And I hope they stick with the recording here, not with the eggs. But take a look at the style in terms of how QVC or Home Shopping Network will kind of very organically layer that offer in to what they're presenting. And if you want one of the easiest ways to do this, well, first of all, let me tell you what not to do. Do not go out and go. Just check out, if you want to learn more about changing the criteria in your buyer's mind, and I may have the number here, so understand this is a metaphor. Simply go to jasonlinett.com/archives/podcast/HLH 22-change-your- do you see what I'm getting at here? This is where, with this podcast series, well, this episode is number 33, and we do a shortcut, jasonlinett.com/33. Pro tip, I own every misspelling of my last name as a website, so do your best to spell jasonlinett.com. Once it loads, then go to the browser and type in /33. That'll bring you over to this week's episode. But similar to that, I will buy vanity URLs for most of my projects. There is zero search engine benefit to this. Every benefit to this is the easy call out. So, for example, in another market that I'm in, there's jasonwebinar.com. And all that URL does was I bought that on GoDaddy for like $10, went into their settings, and just redirected that over to a webinar. I don't have to be there and go to join.live/J8. You get the idea here. The vanity URL makes it very easy for you to call out that specific offer in a very conversational way. And for extra credit, as you talk about it, as you're streaming, you can just simply say, just so everybody sees that, if you're watching me right now and you can hear all right, just comment below, just put in whatever the webinar link is, or now.jasonlinett.com. So believe in what you're putting out there, believe in the value that you present, but then layer it in, especially in these live streaming platforms. I'm watching the live audience right now as I'm broadcasting this first to a Facebook Live, which will then be repurposed into the podcast, and the numbers are toggling up and down. Well, because I didn't quite announce that this one was happening, there was a quiet window of time. The joy of being in a smaller home for a month as we're recording here, but that opportunity then to just simply layer that in at the points where, if this is resonating with you, check out now.jasonlinett.com. Or if this is helping you and you want to get these results faster and easier, check out, and so forth. You get the idea there. That being said, I've called out my location a few times in preparation for this next point. This is where it may be helpful to have a dedicated space. Now, I'm in a spot where we kind of reorganized this room to give me a corner, so this is always now set up. I'm on a chair that's a little higher than it ought to be. I'm on a sort of end table, which was tall, and I went, ooh, I can steal that from the living room and put that in here. And the camera's set up. I've got this light on my computer. My microphone is on a boom stand that's a little bit bigger than I'd like, but Amazon will be delivering a new one by the end of the day. But I'll give you the example of where I'm coming from on this. I was on a consulting call with someone this morning, and she's got one corner of her office where there's a plant. So there's some nice texture to the background. There is some lettering on the wall behind her, and her setup there is set up in such a way that she's got her laptop docked, and there's a few other side monitors. Her husband's a bit of a tech nerd, as I can be, and then there's the Canon camera plugged in through everything else, and just that's the dedicated space. I bring this up because we got onto the topic similar to what I'm chatting with you about here, where her husband will hear her on some of her consulting calls, some of her new potential clients, and hears this very laid-back conversational quality. But then up until recently, as we began working, there was this almost presentation mode that I am now in front of a camera, and now it's time to speak to you. To which I said, when you have those moments where you've had a brilliant, exchange with a client, something amazing has happened in a session with somebody, you've got the setup already there. Rather than just having scheduled moments, here's the moment where the flash of brilliance is there, and to ride that momentum, go capture that on video right now. And this is where it could be. a static video on a website. This is where it could be an onboarding video that you send to somebody once they've reached out to you. It could be something that just becomes a live stream on whatever platforms you may use. But this is where you're capturing yourself at your best. And by doing so, there's like 5 people giving me heart signals at the same time. So cool, we'll take that. But by having that dedicated space, it's not the chore then of, okay, now I've got to move the camera around. Now I've got to turn on the lighting. Wait, is my microphone set up right? The best you can do, even if it's a corner. For anybody who's been watching John Oliver the last year, I've got the white void behind me. Mine has texture. I did buy one of those pop-up green screens for a moment, but I've just never been a fan of green screen on these platforms. Though we've got an amazing photo of the beach behind me, and we'll maybe superimpose that for this. So basically, how to show up with confidence. Show up when you're already revved up. This goes into the whole topic I've talked about previously here of batching by mode. The ability where now I'm recording this in between 2 people who I'm doing my accelerator coaching with. So in between those modes where I'm sitting here at the same computer, the same microphone, the same camera, the same light, and I'm teaching, I'm working with them one-to-one on the languaging of their business. In the same mode right now, I am now producing this week's live stream and this week's podcast episode. So recognize what can you do in advance of it. Similar to this too, it may be a different mode. I know I'm more productive in the morning, especially if I've been working out in some way, if I've been exercising. I'm more alert, I'm more awake, and that's when I do best. I've figured out over times too the specific exercise that I best respond to. So there's ways that we can sort of trick our neurological system out, so when it's time to show up, it's not a matter of having to psych yourself up into that energy. You're already ready to go. That being said, sometimes we do need to have that extra push. And this is what begins to crush over any of that negative mental chatter. The moment you start to truly believe in your offer, the moment that it's really coming from an organic place. I'll share a nuance here, and this is not meant for me to just do the joking pat on the back. But one of the strengths that I've found in terms of my production of content is the ability to go long form in one take. Now, let's give a disclaimer to this. First of all, you only ever see the last take. Second of all, I've been recently tricking myself out by recording on a live stream in which now there's a bunch of people watching me, and I'm not about to go, I don't like the way I said that. Let me go back. It's easier to edit when you're going out solo. When there's an audience, in the words of Lorne Michaels, whether we're ready or not, the show goes live at 11:30. Lorne Michaels is the creator of Saturday Night Live. So it's different when we have an audience in front of us, even though right now it's me with my camera lens and I can see the number of people who are watching live right now or have given hearts and thumbs up. I think you can do other emojis too. Someone give me a monkey. So in that ability to believe inside of what you're doing and what you're presenting, comes that opportunity where I mentioned the long form video. And I had someone a while ago, and I don't say this to be arrogant or cocky, thank you. I don't say this to be arrogant or cocky, but someone goes, how do you do that in one take? And I say, well, there's 2 answers to that. One is I know what I'm presenting. I'm only choosing to present on things that already I have an expertise at. Yes, there are moments where I may pop up and say, let's all figure this thing out together. So teach what you know, teach what you're good at. This is why it's important to find someone that you can find evidence of their own business beyond their own consulting program. I've got 2 people who are stuck inside of other coaching programs. And right now they're going, I only have evidence that this person does, coaching to grow a business. I can't find any evidence of their own business. To which I go, that should have been a red flag. So I know what I'm talking about. This is what I already have an expertise at. And the arrogance maybe comes in the second bullet point. It's because I actually care. And that may sound a little flippant, but when you've been in the audience listening to somebody who's just kind of going through the motions of it, presenting because they think they ought to be presenting, or maybe has the motive that, they're only there for the sales. And I'll call it out, business is going exceptionally well right now. Yes, it's great to see in terms of ongoing relationships and ongoing programs, a substantial amount of money coming in on a daily basis. That being said, if you can have the same thrill for that you have for the person who reaches out and says, I read your article, that was really helpful. And you're not in your head going, yeah, but how do I sell them something now? To be just as satisfied with both. So that passion, that genuine care and concern, that really can't be faked. And that's coming from someone who used to spend a lot of time around actors in a theater career. So be genuine and tell the truth. Once again, in the words of Mark Twain, the man who tells the truth doesn't have to remember what he said. That being said, too, we can start to draw from our own resources. Now, I'm going to do like a quick thumbnail version of something that you'll see inside of Business Influence Systems, where the first stage of hypnotic influence for business starts with emotional intelligence. So some of you may be watching or listening to this if you're in a place where your attention is needed, such as driving a car or operating a forklift. So if that's the case, keep your visual focus where it needs to be. You can still participate with me, even with your eyes open. Though some of you may like to trance out, in which case feel free to disengage the environment, whatever that means. For some, that's close the eyes. But wherever you are, you can keep your focus where it ought to be. Because take a moment right now and start to consider a moment from your past where you felt confident. Really think about it for a moment, a time where you felt on top of what you were doing. You felt in the mode, in the zone, and you were aware of what was going on. And I'll tell you in advance, some people at this point start to kind of shut down accidentally because they go into analysis paralysis, wondering if I'm thinking of something good. It can be anything. It could be something monumental. It could be a very minor experience. But just take this moment and remember some specific moment of your own story where you were operating in an effective way. And just notice already, just by starting to think of that experience, how some of your physical neurological patterns begin to change. For some of you, maybe your breathing has shifted. For some of you, maybe your posture has gone into a different direction. And even as we share this little bit quick moment of quiet here, notice how perhaps that inner dialogue is a little different than it was before. And it's where, to go deeper inside of this, there's ways of creating what we call an anchor, a physiological cue that you can trigger, that by doing this physical action, it brings you back to the state of mind. But I'm going to give you the fastest and easiest, look at that, way of doing this right now. Just by bringing your memory back to a time where you felt effective, notice how some bit of your physicality has shifted. And just simply notice that by physically adjusting back into that physicality, whether it's the pace of your breathing, whether it's the awareness of where your breathing is located, whether it's even the posture of your shoulders, or even just like a director, like you had a remote control perhaps, changing that volume of the dialogue inside of your mind. And I want you to focus on what's different about this quality of your experience right now compared to where it was a few moments ago before we began this little interactive segment. And just start to realize that from this calm, relaxed, in the zone, focused state of mind, how much easier it's going to be for you to show up with confidence. And I have to go off on a tangent here. You can hold on to that changing awareness you've now created. But this is where I do like to remind you that mathematically speaking, the movie Spaceballs is better than Star Wars. Because if you think about it, it took 3 movies of Star Wars for the character of Luke to really realize he had the Force all along. One time with Mel Brooks' Spaceballs, Lone Star realized he always had the Schwartz. So what I'm getting at here is the ability to expedite learning, to realize in many ways the skills you're looking to build are ones you already had. So we haven't created anything new here. All we've done is 2 simple steps. I had you think back to a specific memory, whether it was meaningful, whether it was meaningless. And just notice how shifting your focus changed that physiological quality of your own experience. And so it's where now, anytime, anywhere, simply by shifting that awareness, duplicating that physicality, you can bring yourself back into a similar state of mind as you are right now. And even from this point of view, imagine showing up to your audience right now. Imagine sitting down and speaking with a prospective client. Imagine from this calm state of mind, realizing the value of what you have to offer, and then just inviting someone to take the next step. As you think about that, notice what's different now. Cool. So the interesting moment is that ability to just access something that's there. And I mention Star Wars and Spaceballs because I call this little principle I'm about to share the Schwartz principle, which is the idea that the more you make use of something, the better it's going to work for you. And the better it works for you, the less you're going to need it as a technique. So the more you purposefully make use of this sequence, the better it's going to create results for you. And the better it creates results for you, the less you're going to need it as a method to call back that empowered state of mind. So I want to hear from you exactly how you've put this to use. I'm seeing some great comments here in terms of, I was really truly meant to listen to this message at this exact moment. Awesome to have you here. Call that out for a moment of synchronicity. So to access our own best confidence helps us to show up with that confidence as well. Then again, I found if you had a few hypnotic language hacks, it's a whole lot easier to get there faster and easier. When you've got the right words at the right time and the right frameworks to make that happen, that's what we do inside of Business Influence Systems. Head over to now.jasonlinett.com. Check that out. I'm Jason Linett. See you next time. You have been listening to the Hypnotic Language Hacks podcast with Jason Linett. Please stop everything and start exploring jasonlinett.com for even more business influence and persuasion resources. Make it a priority right now to subscribe to this program and listen to every episode, because the next one may reveal that one hypnotic influence secret to massively scale your success. Change your words, change your business, change your life. Get even more at jasonlinett.com.